Hi, this is Bob Brooks, host of the Prudent Money Radio Show. Just got off the air just a second ago. Wanted to give you a preview as to what to expect from the program today. Talking a little bit more, kind of a continuation from the other day, talking about retirement stress. I really believe the retirement stress is not because we're stressed out about retirement because we don't have the information we need to know if we're going to be able to retire, how we're going to be able to retire, what the plan is. So there's 5 things you need to know. I go into a deep dive into at least 2 of them, and of course I'm going to save the other 3 for the next show. So we'll talk a little bit about that on tomorrow. So if you have any questions at all, if you'd like to even learn about the process, go through the process, just send me an email, info@prudentmoney.com. Keep the faith.
This is Alistair Begg of Truth for Life, heard daily and weekends on Bible School Radio, 91.3 KDKR, Decatur, Dallas, Fort Worth, and on 91.3 KYJC Commerce.
Portions of KDKR programming do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or staff.
Prudent Money with Bob Brooks is sponsored by the Prudent Money Foundation on 91.3.
Well, what to do about retirement stress? Today we're going to take a look. Stay tuned for Prudent Money. Good afternoon, this is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. And I do have a line open if you'd like to call in. The number to call is 1-877-913-5357. 1-877-913-5357. You can also go to the website and send an email. There's at the top of the page, there's a Q&A. Just click through. Love to get information from you that way. Questions, whatever's on your mind, comments. Always like to get comments. And if you miss a program, you want to check the podcast out. We do podcast every program about 10, 15 minutes after we get off the air. And you can go to whatever platform you love the most and that you go to listen to podcasts. We're probably there. So you can check us out there as well. So that's all at the website. Actually, you can go to the website to listen to the podcast as well. PrudentMoney.com. 1-877-913-5357. Well, just a few minutes on what happened today with the market. I think it's worth just kind of keeping you up to date. The S&P 500 down near 1%. NASDAQ down about 1.5%. Dow Jones was not even down 0.25%. Held up much better than the other 2 indexes. So today was Fed Day, when the Federal Reserve Board, Chairman Powell, announces what the board is going to do about interest rates. Are they going to raise them? They're going to cut them? They're going to leave them alone? Well, today they came out and they said pretty much like I would expect, except there was one twist to it the markets obviously didn't like. They said they weren't going to cut rates, increase rates today. Probably one more towards the end of the year and probably another one next year. And the bottom line of the message was simply higher rates are going to be around much longer than anticipated. So they're going to keep the foot on the pedal. And I can't even imagine. There's a couple of things that jump out at me at this. The first, as I've said, consumers are at their breaking point right now from the standpoint they've had as much of this inflation as they can handle, and it's only a matter of time before you start to see some problems starting to develop. You're statistically, in a lot of the indicators, you're starting to see some of those problems. So, the fact that he's going to leave interest rates high is problematic. Now, nothing that we haven't talked about on Prudent Money, and we've been discussing the fact that he's really almost forced to do so, And I think that the market's trying to absorb that revelation. It's not really a revelation, the reality of the situation. And I keep coming back to what does that do to the real estate markets? Because the real estate markets need mortgage rates to go down, especially below 7%. It's kind of a psychological point, 5%. So how much longer can the country last? And really, is the decision to not raise rates, not to be a little bit more aggressive, probably what we need, actually more harmful than raising the rates itself? Because I do think that we need more. Now, this is what the market wants. The market wants, I think it was even kind of a joke that Chairman Powell brought up in his message after the Federal Reserve Board meeting announcement, is that we can start chipping away at the higher interest rates. And and I know, if they start cutting rates aggressively, we're going to be right back where we started. A bubble. I mean, this is the problem, is that you've got to clear the decks. You got to get rid of the toxic parts of the economy. You have to take everything down and start it back up again. Clear out the inflation once and for all. I was telling somebody yesterday, the problem with inflation, especially those in retirement and leading up to retirement, that pivotal 5 to 10 years before retirement starts, feel like I'm never going to get ahead. This inflation issue is going to go on for longer than we can expect. It's just not true. It will go away. Obviously have no idea when that is, but it will go away. And like I said yesterday, I think that the one thing that you can take away from all of this is that inflation seems like it's leveled out. What that means is that it's not still just gradually increasing and going up. So I think that's good. Now it's all about, can the consumer survive this prolonged stay of higher interest rates and higher inflation? And that's, I want to say that it's been almost a year ago since we've been talking about this. And it makes me wonder what we'll be talking about a year from now. But that's what I interpret it to be. And we'll just stay on top of it and keep you posted and let you know what you need to know. 1-877-913-5357. I do have a line open. Would love to hear from you today. Yesterday, I started kind of a part one of retirement stress, talking about it, introducing the 5 things that you need to cut back on retirement stress. One of the points I made, and this was based on a survey that was released. And the craziest thing about this survey, 52% of those surveyed felt like they were going to have a great financial future, a great retirement, do whatever they wanted to do, financial freedom. 52%. But then the other 47% said it's going to be bad. It's going to take a miracle. How can you have a cleanly divided survey that states half of America is at one extreme, the other half at the other extreme? Well, that just paints the picture for me. There is a higher level of confusion than ever before about how all this works. One of the main goals of prudent money is to view money. The main goal is to view money through the lens of stewardship. And part of what we value, part about what this is all about, is educating you on how money works. And the only way that you can really get that is, because I'm not saying everything that I believe is the absolute way to believe. I mean, you may believe differently, and it may be working for you. But it's critical to get both sides of the story, see both sides, come up with your own somewhere in the middle or more on one side or the other, or whatever it might be, and come up with that point in your life where you say, this is the way that I believe, this is what I think about inflation, this is what I think about money, and really start to build on an education. And that's what we do. I had someone send me a very nice note saying they listen to the program every day, and that just makes me feel like we're making some progress. And so the problem I see with retirement, with goals, with the whole thing involving money, is that we're uninformed. And when you're uninformed, fear of the unknown starts to creep in. And it's time to know what I call your numbers. And there's 5 things. We talked about it yesterday. I just kind of introduced them today. I'm going to do a deeper dive into it. But there's 5 numbers that you need to know. And with that, and you go to find a financial advisor who thinks along these ways, because most don't, and really build out a very, very simple plan. In another conversation I was talking about that this is what I feel is the shame of this whole situation, is that people don't really figure out how easy this is to set up. I'm not saying it's easy to carry it out. I'm not saying that the whole process is easy. This isn't pop culture finance. This is just taking a realistic look, because it's all math and it's all the numbers. But it's about getting in the know, getting confidence again in what you're doing. Take what you're doing wherever you are and improve on it. Don't look at, you may not be where you want to be, but don't look at your situation and go, all this for nothing. No, you are where you are. Change the attitude and go a different way. Improve on what you've been doing. I know this is going to sound crazy, but there's a plan for everybody. Just got to figure it out, especially when you start talking about Social Security. I'm going to address that here in just a second. 1-877-913-5357. This is Bob Brooks. Stick around. I'll be right back.
The Word for Today is excited to announce the new official online home for the ministry of Pastor Chuck Smith and Kay Smith, pastorchuck.org. At pastorchuck.org, you'll have instant access to thousands of hours of verse-by-verse teaching by Pastor Chuck Smith from Genesis through Revelation, and full access to special messages on subjects such as prophecy and much, much more. Also at pastorchuck.org, a full library of great teachings by Kay Smith, and a section where you can read some of Pastor Chuck's books online, all free of charge. So visit the new official online home of the Word for Today and the ministry of Pastor Chuck and Kay Smith, pastorchuck.org.
God's care and concern for families extends even into his top 10 list, the 10 Commandments in the book of Exodus. And this week on A New Beginning, Pastor Greg Laurie helps us dig into these timeless instructions for insight on living a more rewarding life in the 21st century. Tune in for A New Beginning.
A New Beginning, weekday mornings at 7:30, here on KDKR.
This week on Truth for Life, we'll wrap up our study in the book of James with a warning about the lure and the misuse of money. Then we'll begin a study of the tough questions asked by the prophet Habakkuk about God's timing and tolerance. That's our focus on Truth for Life with Alistair Begg.
Weekdays at 5:30 a.m. here on 91.3 KDKR.
Welcome back. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. I was talking about retirement stress. My thesis is that we're stressed because we don't know the information, don't know if we're on track. How would you like the idea of having a plan that addresses everything you're doing, allows you to improve upon your life, covers all the aspects of money, and you know at any given time if you are on track or not on track? How much stress would you have in your life about money? I think you'd be in pretty good shape. So let's do a deeper dive into these 5 pieces of information. The first one is, you might think this is an obvious answer, but age at retirement. It's a very critical time that we've really got to put some effort into determining what's the best age for you to retire. And one of the other things too, and I think is just crucial to this entire process, is that you don't do it on your own. That you do invite God into your conversations, into your thoughts, in your prayers, about finding out what you need to find out. You see, it's a two-way game plan. God's going to open doors for you. The problem is you may not see them as open doors because you're not doing your part, doing the work, doing the things you need to do, developing the habits. With God as your guide and leading you through this process, He's opening doors. We just have to be doing our part to see Him. So keep that in mind. So you might just start out with the basics of what age. 62, 67, 70. The 3 most popular ages, maybe 65 too, maybe we say 4, but popular ages that you retire and start taking Social Security. So let's talk about Social Security for just a second, because I want to give you there's an example, a couple who has accumulated very little in retirement accounts. Wife stays home, or the husband stays home and the wife works, either one. And like I said, they don't have anything really saved up. They've got some cash, they've got a few investments, but not much. And you get to a point to where you retire at age 70. Now, the spouse that was not working has no credits to go towards Social Security. But would you be shocked if I told you that couple, they waited till age 70, could have as much as $5,350 a month coming in Social Security? $5,350. I estimated $3,500 for the one spouse who's working, and then half of that number for the spouse that doesn't even have a Social Security in credit, because that's what Social Security does, is a spousal benefit. I think that with no debt, they could live a pretty good retirement on that. Now, it's not as ideal as retiring at 67 or 65. And maybe they do the math and they feel like they can work. You know, the other thing too that I think we're going to see is, you know, here, and I want you to get creative with these game plans. That you've saved up enough money to where maybe you retire at age 65, you travel, and you're completely retired, no jobs, not tied to anything. You travel, you do things like that you kind of always wanted to within reason, and you go and you do that for 2 years, then at 67, you simply get a part-time job doing really anything. I had a client call me. He was so excited because of a part-time job that he got. And that brings in extra money. It might bring in just enough to kick in with the Social Security you're getting, to kick in with the income that you can take from retirement plans, that type of thing. So it's about getting creative. Now, I know what you're thinking, and it's all about the state of Social Security. Let's talk a little bit about that just real quick. There's 2 aspects to Social Security that are important to know. The first one is that you have the trust fund. So the trust fund is where Social Security, Social Security taxes go, and then from what a combination of the Social Security taxes, payroll taxes that are added, and what's already in the trust goes out to pay benefits that the U.S. government's liable for to be paying. Well, at some point in 2034, 2032, that Social Security trust is going to run out. So you would have Social Security funded by completely 100% by payroll taxes that are taken out of your check, out of everybody's check. And at that point, that amount of money coming in would only fund, I think it was 75 or 76%. I may be off on that number, but you get the idea, of Social Security. So if you're making $1,000 a month, that would be down to $750. That's if they didn't take any action. I fully believe there will be a president who will make it look like he or she has solved the Social Security problem forever. Of course, when everybody finds out that it's not, that president's probably long and gone, long dead and gone, if you know what I mean. He's not around to defend himself. But he created the legacy, the look of a legacy anyway. But it's just about, I've seen many studies, just a raise, a little bit of a raise in payroll taxes, and you extend the benefits beyond, I think, about 70, 75 years. The problem that politicians have is the Generation X, the voting bloc that they represent. So they're gonna take care of, now for everybody else, and I don't know what to tell you about Social Security, probably it's not as good. But then again, I think most people in their 40s and 30s, and definitely in their 20s, aren't really expecting that much from Social Security. So start out with your age, and also want to mention one of the things. Start out, if you're going to start out young, let's say that you're looking at wanting to retire at age 60, and let's say it's you're 50. You've got to be incredibly detailed, and you've got to be absolutely sure with very conservative numbers that you can do this with very conservative numbers, that your money will last a lifetime, because that's a long time, and you got to be very well funded, and you can't be taking any aggressive assumptions at all. So be very very careful how you do that. Number 2, your anticipated expenses each month. This is, I will admit, this is a tough one, because there's 2 ways to go about it, and might I suggest a third. The first way to go about it is the most ideal way. That is to start tracking your spending. Find out where you're spending your money each month, and see if you can find the rhythm that you're spending consistently each month. And from there, and from a good year's worth of detail and calculations, you can figure out, well, this is what I'm spending. This is what I need to fund at retirement. same level of expenses to pay those expenses. So that's the ideal way, that you know intimately what you're spending. Second, that you go through the dangerous process of assuming and estimating, because that's where you get the answer. What do you think you're going to need to retire off of? Oh, $5,000 to $8,000. Well, is it 5 or is it 8,000 or is it 6 or is it 7? It's a dangerous route to go. So I wouldn't suggest doing that. Maybe the third way would be kind of a combination of going through and estimating some of the expenses and doing some detailed work, coming up with a guess, but a little bit more of a well-informed guess. And coming up with this is, though, a real key is getting to figure out what those anticipated expenses, and it does take a little bit of work to get through them and get the right number that you need from the standpoint of retirement expenses. Now, here's the deal. I'm not even remotely close to being done. So tomorrow I'm going to finish up this information, and we'll talk less about everything else and more about finishing this up. So make sure that you join in. This is Bob Brooks. You got a question for me, please go to the website at prudentmoney.com and send it in, because we are all out of time. Till we do meet again next time, keep the faith and have a great rest of the day.
That's all the time we have for today. Questions or comments for Bob, or to find out more great information like what you've just heard, visit www.prudentmoney.com. Be sure to join Bob Brooks again for the next edition of Prudent Money.